STN was supposed to be a week-long convention packed with filming, editing, and contests, held in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. But the coronavirus spread across the U.S. at such a rapid rate the convention was canceled for safety reasons. But we made the best of it before this new reality set in. We began our trip at 2 a.m, heading to the Van Nuys Flyaway. We then rode the bus to Los Angeles International Airport and were ready to catch the 5-hour-long flight. I went through TSA, got Pete's coffee, and hung out until it was time to begin boarding. Once the plane took off, we started our 2,500-mile flight. I started watching Seth Meyers and Trevor Noah, and I was good to go. We landed in Dulles International Airport and headed to our hotel, the Washington Hilton, where the White House Correspondents' Dinner is held every year. Later that night, we went on a night tour of Washington, D.C. and all the monuments. It was a great opportunity for me to see the iconic landmarks like the Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, Vietnam veterans, and the Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial. The next morning, we woke up and went to the metro and rode it to the White House. After our short visit, we went to the Arlington National Cemetery, where we saw the famous changing of the guards. The following day was another one packed with action. We started off at arguably the most iconic landmark, the United States Capitol. We went on a tour through the Dome and Statuary Hall, and went to the Senate and House chambers where you were not allowed to take cameras. We then walked down the street to the National Archives, where you also weren't allowed to take pictures. Once we arrived back at the Hilton, we received news that the STN convention was canceled, and we had to find other ways to spend the week in Washington. The next day, Niall Horan's new album Heartbreak Weather dropped, so give it a listen because it's very, very good. We decided to go to the Museum of Natural History in the famous National Mall. We walked through the exhibits and I went through the Butterfly Garden by myself. We went through the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum the day before it closed due to the pandemic and wrapped up our day. The next day, we made use of the camera equipment we brought across the country and set out to produce a story. Our group went to the Washington Monument asking what makes Washington, D.C. unique. While there, we got the experience of a lifetime and went to the top of the Washington Monument. Yes, I did think about this part of Spider-Man Homecoming.
Okay. What's wrong? You've reached the southwest window. Why are you hesitating?
The views were breathtaking of the National Mall, the Potomac, and the monuments. Later that night, we went on a small-scale walk for ice cream, where we got very lost but saw lots of dogs. We had a campfire on the deck for hours, and then got even more ice cream. We set out bright and early the next day to make a commercial for Twinkies at the National Mall. We came back, edited it, and then did nothing else, until that evening when we built a fort outside in the literal frozen rain. The next day, we had to leave Washington, D.C. and head back to Los Angeles. We rode the bus to Dulles International Airport, went through all the traveling whatnots, and got Starbucks. We boarded the plane, where I got the whole row to myself, and watched Jojo Rabbit while taking these very aesthetic videos out the window. We arrived back in Los Angeles, ending our trip to Washington, D.C. I'm so grateful I had this experience with my friends, and I hope I never forget the memories that we had.